G'day, I'm Paul. Don't worry, you have not tuned into a different version of CarExpert, or Truck Expert. No, this is just something a little bit different I wanted to try because on a car license here in Australia, you can actually drive a vehicle up to 4,500 kilograms of GVM, and that is gross vehicle mass. That is the total weight of the vehicle with its payload. And guess what? You can actually drive one of these on a car license and it sits at right on 4,500 kilograms, and it gives you the opportunity to put around 1.2, 1.3 tonne of payload in the back. So I wanted to see, how does a truck like this compare to a ute, which a lot of people buy to achieve the same thing? So that is what we're going to find out today. I'm not going to run you through what this competes with. I'm really not totally across trucks. So this is, if you're into trucks, this is probably going to be the worst truck review ever, but I'm just going to review it as a person that loves utes, and you know, this is an alternative to a ute. Now let's talk pricing. They kick off from just over 65 grand. The one you're looking at here is a little under $68,000. Again, different to utes, there are so many different variants of these things and so many configurations you can have on the tray. This one in particular is called the Trade Pack, which basically means it comes standard with the bull bar and also the tray and other bits and pieces to get you straight onto the road without having to go and customize everything. So today we're going to do a detailed review of this truck. So if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you can find out every single time we review a truck. Now, let me run you through what this is. It's an Isuzu, and we've reviewed a stack of Isuzu dual cab utes. It's the same parent company, but the trucking arm sits separate. So if you go and talk to the ute people, they don't really talk to the truck people, and vice versa. But this is where Isuzu gets some of its engine tech from. They use a version of the D-Max's engine here in some of these N Series trucks. So it gives you a bit of an idea of how that relationship works and why there is that perception of longevity and reliability with Isuzu dual cab utes, because they make engines that are designed to work in trucks, and they're hard-working things. Now, I mentioned before that there's a stack of different variants, and that is because when you buy one of these, it just comes as a chassis. So you don't get a bull bar or any of that stuff, and typically you would then go out and fit something aftermarket. What these guys do is actually design and engineer a lot of their own equipment here in Australia. So you can actually accessorize this in a number of different ways. They've got tippers you can put on the back. They've even got different wheelbases. You've got a stack of options. And then once you get outside the range of vehicles that you can drive on a car license, it's just limitless in terms of what you can actually do with them. So, but for the purposes of today, I'm just going to be talking about the stuff that relates to a car license. Trade Pack, it comes with the bull bar, so that comes standard. This is actually a bull bar that's been engineered by Isuzu, so it warrants the vehicle in the sense that all of your safety systems work, and in addition to that, you're not going to have issues with overheating the engine and other problems that you have with some third-party accessories where they don't do that work. Down the front here as well, you've got cornering lamps, so when you are turning into a street, it is going to light up the street as you're driving into it, just to give you a bit more surety on what's going on. Over here, I'm going to talk about safety later, but this system may look familiar. It actually uses a set of cameras up the front here, and these are designed to give the vehicle visibility over the road. So it's got pedestrian AEB and normal AEB, cyclist AEB, so it is sort of pretty well equipped there. This comes with two transmission options. You can either go a full manual or this, an automated manual transmission. Now, Isuzu says the whole reason they use an automated manual transmission is that because manual transmissions are cheap to service, they're fairly uncomplex in the way that they operate, and this system basically actuates a clutch for you and does everything for you. So as a driver, all you need to worry about is the brake and the throttle. So it means you don't need to stress about actually driving a manual transmission vehicle. For the Trade Pack, you've got two wheelbase lengths available to you. You've got a medium wheelbase, which is this vehicle here, 3.365 metres, and then you've got a short wheelbase, which is 2.765 metres. But to give you a bit of a visual of how long this is as a medium wheelbase, this is around the same length as the F-150 long wheelbase that we tested recently. So when you visualize a truck like this, you think, oh my God, it's so big, but it's actually the size of an American pickup truck. So there you go. In terms of width, it's slightly wider than a standard dual cab ute as well. They actually do a narrow body version of this truck too that is slightly smaller, but this is kind of where you want to be to get the amount of tray space that you need. This also comes with a number of accessories you can add on. The trade pack comes standard with the ladder racks and the tray as well. It's an aluminium heavy duty tray. You can also have soap dispensers and other bits and pieces there as well. Probably the most exciting thing for me is the fact that you can actually tow up to 4.5 tons. So 3.5 tons with a 50mm ball, but if you go to a 70mm ball, you can do 4.5 tons and you'll still be within the GCM, which is 9,000 kilos. So anything above the 4,500 GVM though, you're going to need a truck license. I think it is a pretty impressive setup there in terms of how far you can stretch the budget on a car license without then having to go for a truck license. This actually has a 5.5 ton GVM, which means that if you do want to go that one extra step and get a truck license, you can actually put an extra ton of payload in the back here. So it is a proper workhorse. If you compare this to some of the dual cab utes, especially the entry-level ones that have over a ton of payload, you really are at the limits of that vehicle once you are at a ton. If you then decide to tow as well, you are very much at the limits. So this, on the other hand, does all of that quite comfortably. What else can I tell you about it? All of the sides fall down, and then all of this stuff is done here in Australia as well. So let me know what you reckon about this. I know that it is a little difficult to get across the pricing and stuff. Truck people will understand it, but for me, it's a bit of a learning curve, so I'm going to give you as much information as I can, being new to this whole thing. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Would you still get a ute, or do you actually need to carry stuff, and would you consider something this size? Let me know in the comments section below. So welcome to the interior of the N Series. This is what the key looks like. So it's just a normal key, and then you've got central locking there as well with lock and unlock. So I'll pop this in to fire all this stuff up. Now, I'm going to do this in the same way that I would review a car. So I'm going to go through all the same steps that we normally would. On the design front, yes, it is very truck-like, but they do have a new version of this vehicle coming, and that is going to include a brand new interior. One thing I did notice immediately is the infotainment system. I mean, that is enormous, and we'll get to that in just a second. But outside of that, everything else is pretty basic. You've got analog gauges ahead of the driver with a small LCD display for things like your fuel economy. And then you've got all your switch gear alongside the steering wheel. All your pedals are over to the right-hand side. So if you left foot brake like I do, it just means that you're going to be sitting off to the side a little bit there. And that is because the clutch pedal normally sits over here. So that is how that typically works. Being the automated manual transmission, this is where your gear stick is. You've got the option of eco mode there as well, which is good, and then also manual shifting modes if required, and automatic climate control as well, which means you just set a temperature that you want in the cabin, hit auto, and then it will adjust the air conditioner to run until the cabin is at that temperature. So that's all sort of nice and decent. Now, what about your touch points? So, I mean, it's all pretty hard. You don't have anywhere to really rest all that much, but we do have our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you do want to see how this vehicle compares to other vehicles that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description below. Now, what about your build quality? So, I don't know, this all feels really quite nice and solid. Do you drive one of these? Do you have one as a work vehicle on your fleet? Let me know in the comments section below. What are they like in terms of reliability? They come with a 6-year warranty for the vehicle itself and then a shorter warranty for the accessories. But 6-year warranty to me tells me that they probably have a decent amount of confidence in these, and they're one of the biggest builders of diesel engines in the world. So I guess they got to be doing something, right? And this is what the door slam sounds like. Now, let's talk infotainment. If you're going to be spending a lot of time in this vehicle, it is important that A, you're not distracted, and B, you're entertained while you're on the road. And I tell you what, this infotainment system is fantastic. I think this is actually better than the infotainment system you get in an Isuzu D-Max or an MUX vehicle. So it comes standard with satellite navigation. It's a 10.1-inch colour touchscreen. So inbuilt satellite navigation, which works sort of fairly well. Or you do have the option of using smartphone mirroring. You have both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So that takes up the full screen there. Nice and quick without sort of any dramas there, which is good. This is what Android Auto looks like. Same story again, full screen display. Both of those are wired. You've got AM, FM, and DAB digital radio. You can also put photos and videos on the screen. You have an inbuilt manual as well. And I think most importantly, you actually have voice recognition here as well. So if you do want to send a text message or something, you can just hit that, and then that will basically just let you use your voice to send that text. You don't need to touch your phone or really take your eyes off the road for very long at all. So really good setup there. It's also where you access your reverse view camera, and this thing's really cool for a couple of reasons. So number one, the quality is fantastic. Look at that. I mean, crystal clear. And I just cannot understand these days where you hop into a passenger vehicle and the quality of the reverse camera is terrible. It's like, if you can do it in a truck, how can you not do it in a passenger vehicle? So anyway, in addition to that, you've got microphone there so you can hear what's going on at the rear of the vehicle, but you can also then hook up additional cameras. So you have inputs there to run all of them through the screen here. So fantastic piece of equipment, and you can see they're really thinking about the end user here. Then you've got a small screen here that just gives you an idea of your fuel economy, service intervals, and battery charge level as well. So yeah, all a really nice setup here, and all easy to use as well. Certainly is for me. I would like to see perhaps some steering wheel controls. Perhaps that's going to come in the update to this vehicle that's coming soon. So moving on to practicality, we'll go with connectivity to start with. You've got two USB-A ports there. One of those is for your infotainment system if you want smartphone mirroring. In terms of storing bottles and stuff like that, you've got two cup holders just here. You've got bottle storage. Actually, you don't even have bottle storage inside the door. One thing I did notice as I was poking around here, there isn't actually a great deal of incidental storage. You've got this stuff up the top here for documents and other bits and pieces. That's got a net as well to stop stuff falling out, but there's no sort of glove box. There's no bigger area to store things. So I think perhaps they could do a little bit better there. But importantly for some of you, you've got a dart holder. Well, not a dart holder, but an ashtray over here once you're done with your darts. And of course, you need to dispose of them safely as well. Don't chuck them out the window. Document holder inside the door. Now, if you do have an apprentice or you do have to carry somebody else, you do have a third seat here to work with. It only has a lap belt, so there is no sash on that. But if you can't be bothered with that, you can drop this down to get a little bit of storage there. That's also how you get access to this rear storage too. Love this. So you do have a standard light up here, but you hit this button here and then it flicks that sucker on. So they really do sort of think about everything that the worker needs here. So it's all sort of pretty straightforward. In terms of the seat comfort, you have a suspended seat, which means you enter in your weight. So for me, I put in 80 kilos and then you spin that around, and it's going to limit the amount of extension the seat gets when you are sort of bouncing over rough terrain. So that's a really cool feature. And finally, you have steering adjustment in the form of both tilts and reach adjustment as well. Now, you're probably wondering as well, heated seats and heated steering wheel. Yes, it's got those, but you do need a hot day and you just need to sit it outside for a couple of hours. Okay, so we've just hit the road in the N Series. I want to run you through just something that I'm kind of getting used to because I haven't used something like this for quite some time. I think the last one was in a, what was it, in a Citroen or something, and I hated it then, and I suspect I'm going to hate it now, but it is the automated manual transmission. So basically the way that it works is when you take off from a standing start, this is actually taking off in second, but when it's ready to grab its next gear, it's basically just regardless of how much throttle input you have, it's totally coming off the throttle, changing the gear, then reapplying. So it does take a little bit of time to get used to, and you kind of lose your momentum as it's sort of shifting up gears. And I found that the best way to overcome that time gap is when you feel it's about to shift, you let off the throttle and then get back onto it. And that was the case when this type of transmission or a similar type of transmission was fitted to Aston Martins in the V8 Vantage. So just a little bit of interesting stuff. Then you can also manually shift as well. So if you do want to lock in your own gear selections, you just do it all through here and then it will hold the gears as required. So yeah, it's all sort of pretty straightforward. Now, what is under the bonnet here? So it's a 5.2 litre, 4-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine, makes 114 kilowatts of power and 419 Newton meters of torque. Now, we're totally unladen at the moment, and I want to put the question to you, do you want us to stick a load in this? Do you want us to do some towing? Do you want us to compare it to a ute? Let me know, and I'll see if I can get one of these back and load it up along with a ute, and we'll see which one's actually better at doing what it's meant to do. But let's see what it feels like here behind the wheel. I'll drop it back to third, doing about 40 k's an hour. We're within the torque band. Give that a pin down. Nice. Grab fourth. Get onto that again. Yeah, look, it is actually moving along surprisingly well for such a big vehicle. I mean, this is around 3 tons before you start putting load into it. So it is a pretty sort of big weight to be moving around, and the engine seems to sort of adequately sort of get it around without too many dramas. It doesn't feel as urgent as something like a dual cab ute, but keep in mind, once you do load a dual cab ute up to its payload limit, it is really going to start feeling a whole lot more sluggish than it actually is. Now, there is no official fuel economy figure, but just based on Trip Computer here, vehicle's currently averaging 15.1 litres per 100 kilometres. It's a 100 litre fuel tank, so it kind of gives you an idea of how much driving range you have. I think if you do want a little bit more driving range, you're going to have to look at putting an extended range fuel tank on. Now, what about ride comfort? So, unladen, it is pretty bouncy. We're talking about leaf springs up the front. It is pretty agricultural in terms of suspension setup, but you need this type of suspension setup to be able to cater for this much load. So where you have dual cab utes with independent front suspension, you're getting that comfort in and around town. But once you start putting load into them, they can wallow a little bit, whereas this, once it has the load settled on it and the leaf springs are extended, this is where it's feeling a whole lot more comfortable. But they do overcome some of that with this seat. So it is suspended, you just dial in your weight. Then when you're hitting these bumps, you kind of, the chair is just taking all of that load, so you're not really getting thrown around too much. Now, in addition to your standard brake, you've also got an exhaust brake, so you activate that by pulling this down. And then we're not really going to see the effects of it right now because we're just on a straight stretch of road here, but between the exhaust brake being on and off, you can notice a difference there. You're going to notice it most if you are towing or if you do have a load in the back and you're going down an extended, graduated sort of descent. Okay, let's try and get this up to 130 for our sine wave test. It's maximum speed limit in Australia. Gives us an idea of what a vehicle's body control is like. I told you we're just going to do everything we do with the normal car reviews, so let's see if I can actually get this up to 130. I have to grab 6th. Come on. Oh, all right. Here's 100. I reckon we'll get up to 110. Oh, just short. Yeah, look, it's actually fine. It's funny because it's such a big vehicle, it sort of sits fairly flat over that stuff. So yeah, I think with a bit more extra weight in it, it should be all good. Okay, it is bumpy road time. This is going to be interesting. Normally we do this at 90 k's an hour. I don't know if I'll be able to keep 90 k's an hour here, but we'll give it a crack. This is basically a terrible quality road. It's like visiting Victoria. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get up to 90, so let's give this a crack. We have a high frequency sound wave here. We have a high frequency sine wave here as well that just gives us an idea of what this is like once you catch that type of thing. There it is, skipping across here a fair bit. Hold on, Sean. All right, that is enough of that. Yes, it is very bouncy on our potholed road. Now, let's go for a faster lap around the track. See how this goes. This should be interesting. Again, I told you I'm just going to test it like we test everything else. Oh, and it's just been raining as well, so let's see what happens. It actually has a surprising amount of road holding. You've got, what are we, 2, 4, 6 tyres on the road here holding everything down. So it actually feels pretty well planted. Obviously, nobody is going to be driving it like this, but, you know, when in Rome. All right. It's actually pretty decent steering as well, despite this being sort of fairly agricultural in terms of its setup. It is actually doing a surprisingly good job on the track here. There you go. Obviously not intended for anything like this, but it's getting along just fine. Now, in terms of road noise, we stuck it up against our calibrated sound meter. This is how it went. If you do want to see how this compares to other vehicles that we've tested before, we'll look at the link in the description. Now let's talk visibility. So I can see clearly out the front of the vehicle. You have such a big, high commanding driving position. The total height of the vehicle means it's going to be a bit of an issue getting into car parks and stuff like that. So do keep that in mind if you do need to go into the city and get into car parks. It will be a little tricky, but you've got these giant wing mirrors and you've got the rear view mirror as well. That's good. You have all bases covered. Now, I mentioned turning circle before, but I'm genuinely staggered at how tightly this turns around. So 12.4 metre turning circle means it is a tighter turning circle than a lot of dual cab utes. So you can just whack that wheel around and it basically just turns on a dime, which is genuinely incredible. Very impressed with that. Now, the moment you have all been waiting for, the acceleration. So we're going to go 0 to 100. I'll try to go through to 120, so I have our sort of 80 to 120 number as well. And we'll see how it goes. It's raining, so I'm going to try and minimise wheel slip. Here we go. It's actually moving along all right here. There's 60 k's an hour. It's already in 5th at 80 k's an hour. All right, now we're in 6th. This is where all the fun happens. So there's 90 and 100. Just gonna stay in it. All right, there's 110. Oh, almost at 120. Here we go. And 120. Fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do as well, just to not have to stop again and accelerate, I'm going to do a stop from 100 to 0 so we can measure our stopping distance as well. I've got Sean set up down here. We'll give it a crack and see how we go. Okay, let's have a look at some of these numbers. So, 0 to 100 took 38.34 seconds. Couldn't actually get up to 120 k's an hour, so max it reached was 118, so we couldn't get our 80 to 120. Now, in terms of the stopping distance, this is crazy. 3.61 seconds and 50.16 metres. Now, the reason I say that's crazy is the Ranger Raptor takes longer to stop when it is damp like it is now than this truck. That is absolutely insane. Now, the moment you have also probably been waiting for, how quickly does it go in reverse? Let's find out. Here we go. There you go. 20 kilometres an hour. So the Isuzu N Series, what do we reckon? Look, today was actually pretty fun. I haven't really driven anything like this before, and I can understand the appeal. Let's talk about pricing first. This is cheaper than a 70 Series Land Cruiser. In fact, you've got like 15 grand change from a 70 Series Land Cruiser, and look how much stuff you're getting. It just seems like a lot of value for money there. It just shows you how much margin they're making off dual cab utes at the moment. If you are serious about your trade, this is probably what you want to go for, because you can load significantly more onto the back of this than you can a dual cab ute or just a single cab ute in that regard. But there is some compromise. So the ride is completely different to a dual cab ute. Dual cab ute, you can drive around town, you can go to the bush, you do whatever you want. This isn't going to be anywhere near as comfortable. So if you do want a lifestyle vehicle, this probably isn't going to suit. But if you are strictly there for trade and you need a vehicle that is going to take a lot of payload, is able to tow 4.5 tonnes, I mean, this is less than half the price of an F-150. So I think it is worth keeping in mind, trying one of these out if you do want a set of utes for your business. It is just the logical way to go. The other thing worth pointing out as well is the servicing stuff. So it's a little bit different to taking your car to Toyota or to Ford to get it serviced. These guys are servicing trucks, they do pickups, drop-offs, so it's a different experience, and I think that for a business, this is going to be more convenient than having something like a Hilux, which is off the road every 6 months for a scheduled service. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Do you want to see us do a comparison between this and a dual cab ute? Load them both up, go do some towing on the hill road. Let me know what you think, because I'm keen to organise that if you guys are. Let me know in the comments section. Have you bought one of these? What's it like? If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.